Have you ever wondered about the kingdoms of India that time forgot? Hidden forts, ancient temples, and secret knowledge shaped civilizations long before modern India. In this video, we explore 100 fascinating stories of forgotten kings, their science, art, and culture that still echo through ruins, manuscripts, and legends. Get ready to uncover history like never before. Chapter 1. In the heart of Rajasthan, the kingdom of Binmal once thrived as a center of learning and trade. Its streets buzzed with scholars discussing astronomy and medicine, while merchants brought silk and spices from distant lands. Forgotten now, Binmal's ruins whisper of a time when knowledge was as precious as gold, and ideas traveled faster than armies. Chapter 2. The ancient kingdom of Kalinga, along India's eastern coast, was famous for its fierce warriors and bustling ports. Centuries ago, it resisted invasions with unmatched bravery. Historians note that Kalinga's society valued arts and maritime trade equally, making it a hub where culture and commerce collided, leaving a legacy buried beneath layers of time. Chapter 3. In central India, the Gond kingdom flourished for centuries, hidden deep in forests. Known for their unique architecture carved from stone and wood, the Gond people blended nature and craftsmanship seamlessly. Their forts and temples remain scattered, silently narrating stories of kings who ruled with wisdom and communities that thrived in harmony with the forest. Chapter 4. The kingdom of Chitradurga in Karnataka was famous for its impregnable fortresses built atop rocky hills. Legends speak of tunnels and secret passages used to confuse invaders. The fort's clever design reflects a deep understanding of geometry and physics, showing how science subtly shaped survival, turning natural landscapes into formidable barriers. Chapter 5. Mysore, before it became famous under Tipu Sultan, had centuries of history of its own. The Wodyars ruled a kingdom rich in culture, dance, and music. Scholars in Mysore studied everything from botany to astronomy. Today, the palaces are tourist attractions, but the intellectual and artistic vibrancy of the kingdom still echoes in every carved pillar and painted mural. Chapter 6. Malwa, a region in central India, was once a crucial trade hub connecting the north and south. Its kings built impressive stepwells, reservoirs, and fortresses. Science and engineering weren't abstract ideas here, they were survival tools. The Malwa rulers knew how to store water, manage floods, and sustain cities, leaving a legacy of innovation hidden beneath dusty stones. Chapter 7. The forgotten kingdom of Ahom in Assam resisted Mughal expansion for centuries. Its military strategy included unique river warfare techniques, combining intelligence and timing. Beyond battles, Ahom kings patronized literature, medicine, and architecture. Today, scholars studying their manuscripts uncover knowledge about herbal medicine and flood management that could surprise modern scientists. Chapter 8. The Chera dynasty in South India ruled coastal regions with thriving ports. Trade brought them gold, spices, and rare manuscripts. They had an early understanding of monsoon winds, harnessing seasonal changes to sail efficiently across the Indian Ocean. The kingdom's hidden treasures tell a story of curiosity and observation, where commerce met science seamlessly. Chapter 9. In the deserts of western India, the Marwar kingdom thrived despite harsh conditions. Water scarcity pushed rulers to innovate, building stepwells and rainwater harvesting systems. Their forts were designed to withstand both attacks and heat. Marwar shows how necessity sparks creativity. Here, survival was both a science and an art. Chapter 10. Vijayanagara, in the Deccan Plateau, dazzled travelers with golden temples and advanced irrigation systems. Its kings supported scholars who mapped stars and predicted seasons for farming. Though the city fell centuries ago, ruins like Hampi still tell the story of a civilization where science, faith, and artistry weren't separate. They danced together under the sun. Chapter 11. The kingdom of Kakatiya in Telangana was renowned for its massive fortifications and intricate temples. Its rulers understood engineering and hydraulics, building tanks and canals that still survive today. The capital, Warangal, buzzed with artisans, scholars, and traders. Kakatiya's legacy reminds us that architecture wasn't just art. It was a precise science serving both function and beauty. Chapter 12. The Solanki dynasty ruled Gujarat, leaving behind stepwells, temples, and intricate carvings. Rulers encouraged astronomy and astrology, using celestial knowledge for agriculture and rituals. Their cities were planned with geometry in mind, blending art, science, and daily life. Today, Solanki ruins whisper stories of a kingdom where knowledge guided both kings and commoners alike. Chapter 13. The Chalukyas of Badami dominated parts of Karnataka and Maharashtra. They left rock-cut temples and cave complexes that combined art, mathematics, and astronomy. Scholars believe their architecture aligned with celestial events, showing a deep understanding of the cosmos. Every stone carved tells a story of rulers who saw science not separately, but woven into culture itself. Chapter 14. In Odisha, the Eastern Ganga dynasty built the famous Konark Sun Temple, honoring solar movements. They mastered stonework, engineering, and hydraulics, creating structures that aligned with seasons and shadows. Beyond worship, these temples were calendars, teaching citizens about time and astronomy. Even now, the precision of their construction amazes scientists and travelers alike. Chapter 15. The Pandya kingdom in Tamil Nadu thrived on pearl trade and maritime commerce. Their ports connected India to Rome, Egypt, and Southeast Asia. Beyond trade, they supported learning and medicine. Ancient texts from Pandya scholars discuss anatomy, herbal remedies, and navigation. Hidden beneath the beaches and temples, the kingdom's intellectual riches still surprise those who dig deeper. Chapter 16. The Hoysala Empire in Karnataka built temples that are marvels of both art and geometry. Each sculpture has exact proportions, showing knowledge of mathematics and balance. Hoysala kings were patrons of astronomy and literature, encouraging scholars to study stars and write chronicles. Their architecture teaches that in some kingdoms, science and art were inseparable companions. Chapter 17. The Chamba kingdom in Himachal Pradesh hid in the mountains, protecting itself from invasions. It developed unique fortifications and irrigation systems to adapt to high-altitude life. Artists painted temples and palaces with vivid murals depicting local legends. Chamba shows how isolation can foster creativity, producing a civilization perfectly in sync with its environment. Chapter 18. The Pala dynasty ruled Bengal and Bihar, leaving a legacy of universities like Vikramashila and Nalanda. Scholars studied medicine, logic, and astronomy, attracting students from across Asia. Palas built impressive stupas and monasteries, blending religion with scientific observation. Even in ruins, these sites remind us that intellectual curiosity once thrived in eastern India. Chapter 19. The Rashtrakutas of the Deccan Plateau were known for rock-cut temples like Ellora Caves. They combined art with engineering, carving intricate temples from solid rock. Their kings supported astronomy and literature, encouraging scholars to explore both the heavens and the earth. Rashtrakutas demonstrate how ambition and science can leave legacies that last centuries. Chapter 20. In the northeastern hills, the Manipur kingdom thrived with unique dance, martial arts, and architecture. Kings encouraged agriculture, medicine, and astronomy, blending local traditions with knowledge from neighboring regions. Rivers and hills shaped their cities, showing a careful understanding of geography. Manipur reminds us that even smaller kingdoms contributed significantly to India's forgotten scientific and cultural heritage. Chapter 21. The Chola dynasty in Tamil Nadu dominated southern India with an impressive navy and far-reaching trade networks. They built grand temples like Brihadiswarar, blending art, astronomy, and engineering. Chola scholars studied medicine and astronomy, predicting eclipses and tides. Their influence reached Sri Lanka and Southeast Asia, proving that science and culture once sailed together across oceans. Chapter 22. In Madhya Pradesh, the Paramara kingdom ruled from Bihar, building forts and temples that reflected precise geometry. Kings encouraged literature, astronomy, and agriculture. Water systems and stepwells showcase their practical knowledge of hydraulics. Paramara's monuments still stand today, whispering of a civilization where science, culture, and strategy shaped daily life and urban planning. Chapter 23. The Vijayanagar Empire's lesser-known cities were buzzing with artisans, scholars, and traders. Irrigation systems were designed to maximize monsoon waters, feeding vast populations. Temples acted as observatories, helping rulers track seasons for agriculture. This kingdom shows that urban planning, science, and culture were deeply intertwined, making survival and prosperity a careful orchestration of knowledge. Chapter 24. The Ahichattra kingdom in Uttar Pradesh thrived as a center of trade and learning. Archaeologists discovered coins, seals, and ancient texts hinting at sophisticated administration and mathematics. Ahichatra's rulers promoted astronomy to aid farming calendars, showing that practical science guided daily life. Forgotten today, the city once pulsed with knowledge, commerce, and strategic brilliance. Chapter 25. The Chera dynasty's coastal kingdoms in Kerala were rich with spices, pearls, and maritime knowledge. Sailors used early maps, astronomy, and monsoon winds to navigate vast oceans. Beyond trade, kings funded scholars studying medicine and botany. Chera's ports were classrooms of science and commerce, proving that even centuries ago, knowledge traveled faster than ships. Chapter 26. The Kamarupa kingdom in Assam mastered river management to protect cities from floods. Kings supported medicine, astrology, and arts, making cities vibrant hubs of learning. Temples and forts were built considering terrain and seasonal changes. Kamarupa demonstrates how environmental challenges pushed science forward, shaping societies that harmonized with rivers, hills, and forests. Chapter 27. The Maratha kingdom, before Shivaji's rise, was a patchwork of smaller principalities. Even then, forts and hilltop defenses reflected strategic engineering. Water storage and granaries ensured survival during sieges. Maratha rulers studied terrain and astronomy to plan attacks. Forgotten details of these innovations reveal that military science and governance were deeply rooted in India's historical kingdoms. Chapter 28. In Rajasthan, the kingdom of Muir built forts like Chittorgarh to resist invaders. Forts used complex geometry, secret passages, and water conservation methods. Kings promoted arts, literature, and astronomy alongside defense. Muir's legacy is proof that survival demanded intelligence, blending architecture, strategy, and observation into a science of living under threat. Chapter 29. The Kutch Kingdom in western India thrived amid deserts and salty flats. Kings invested in water harvesting and salt trade, adapting to harsh conditions. Cities were fortified to protect merchants, and rulers encouraged study of weather patterns and geography. Kutch shows how science, trade, and resilience coexisted, creating a civilization finely tuned to its environment. Chapter 30. The Western Ganga dynasty in Karnataka contributed to architecture, sculpture, and irrigation systems. Kings built temples with exact mathematical proportions and canals to sustain agriculture. Scholars studied astronomy and medicine, making small cities centers of learning. Their achievements remind us that even seemingly minor kingdoms had deep understanding of science, art, and society's needs. Chapter 31. The Pandyas of Tamil Nadu maintained extensive trade links with Rome and Southeast Asia. Their ports were centers of learning and commerce, where merchants exchanged not only goods, but also ideas. Scholars studied astronomy, medicine, and navigation. Pandyas show that ancient kingdoms weren't just about battles. They thrived on knowledge, innovation, and cultural exchange across oceans. Chapter 32. The Rashtrakuta kingdom ruled large parts of the Deccan Plateau, leaving rock-cut marvels like Ellora. Temples aligned with celestial patterns, reflecting advanced astronomy. Kings supported scholars who wrote on mathematics, medicine, and philosophy. Rashtrakutas remind us that art and science weren't separate. They coexisted, guiding both spiritual and practical life, leaving legacies still studied today. Chapter 33. The kingdom of Bundelkhand in central India was a land of forts and palaces built with precise engineering. Rivers were harnessed through canals, and agriculture thrived despite challenging terrain. Scholars documented local flora and seasonal changes, linking observation with survival. Bundelkhand's hidden histories reveal that ingenuity was often the backbone of smaller kingdoms. Chapter 34. The Chalukyas of Kalyani fostered temples, literature, and astronomy. Kings commissioned observatories to track celestial events that informed farming and festivals. Architecture incorporated precise geometry and symmetry, reflecting a blend of science and culture. The Chalukyas show that knowledge was a tool for governance, and creativity often followed the rules of mathematics and observation. Chapter 35. The Satavahanas in central and southern India thrived as traders and administrators. They built stepwells and irrigation systems to sustain cities and farms. Coins and inscriptions reveal sophisticated governance and commerce. Satavahanas demonstrate that ancient rulers relied on both observation and experimentation, showing early forms of science integrated into daily administration. Chapter 36. The Kingdom of Malwa in central India thrived with forts, trade centers, and water reservoirs. Kings encouraged literature, astronomy, and engineering, building cities that survived centuries of conflict. Malwa's ingenuity lay in combining science with art, as stepwells and palaces demonstrate practical knowledge interwoven with beauty. Forgotten today, these lessons still inspire modern planners. Chapter 37. The Ahom dynasty in Assam resisted invasions through clever river warfare and fortifications. Kings invested in learning, medicine, and agriculture, using scientific observation to manage floods and seasons. Their manuscripts reveal deep knowledge of herbs and local ecology. Ahom shows that even isolated kingdoms could innovate, blending tradition with practical science to thrive over centuries. Chapter 38. The Kalinga Kingdom, famous for its resistance and ports, also excelled in urban planning. Streets, forts, and marketplaces were designed efficiently, while rulers encouraged studies in medicine and astronomy. Kalinga proves that strategic thinking and scientific observation went hand in hand, creating cities that functioned as both cultural and economic hubs in ancient India. Chapter 39. The Chamba Kingdom in the Himalayas adapted architecture and agriculture to high-altitude life. Temples and forts reflect careful study of terrain, weather, and natural resources. Kings encouraged arts, astronomy, and medicine, fostering creativity in isolation. Chamba reminds us that geography often shaped innovation, and even small kingdoms contributed to India's forgotten scientific heritage. Chapter 40. Vijayanagar's lesser-known towns were filled with canals, reservoirs, and observatories. Kings ensured agriculture thrived by tracking monsoons and river flows. Temples served as centers of learning, combining faith with science. Vijayanagar demonstrates how large empires could integrate observation, engineering, and culture into daily life, leaving enduring lessons for future generations. Chapter 41. The Western Ganga dynasty in Karnataka built temples and fortifications with precise geometry. Canals and reservoirs supported agriculture, showing advanced knowledge of hydraulics. Kings patronized scholars in astronomy and medicine. Even small towns became centers of learning. The Ganga legacy reminds us that ancient kingdoms often combined art, science, and governance in ways still impressive today. Chapter 42. The Pandya kingdom thrived on maritime trade, exporting pearls and spices to Rome and Southeast Asia. Ports were bustling centers of knowledge, where merchants shared maps, navigation skills, and ideas. Scholars studied astronomy to guide voyages, while medicine and literature flourished. Pandya proves that trade, culture, and science once sailed together across oceans, shaping history quietly. Chapter 43. The Kakatiya kingdom in Telangana built Warangal with fortresses, tanks, and canals that reflected advanced engineering. Kings encouraged scholars to study astronomy and literature, blending science with culture. Temples and palaces followed precise geometry, showing mathematics in practice. Kakatiya demonstrates that ancient rulers valued knowledge as much as conquest, leaving legacies still visible in stone. Chapter 44. The Solanki dynasty of Gujarat left behind stepwells, temples, and public works showing advanced engineering. Kings encouraged astronomy and astrology to plan agriculture and rituals. Cities reflected geometric precision, combining art, science, and daily life. Solanki ruins today remind visitors that knowledge guided not only kings, but entire civilizations, quietly shaping survival and culture. Chapter 45. The Chalukyas of Badami carved rock-cut temples aligned with celestial patterns. Kings supported scholars who explored mathematics, medicine, and philosophy. Temples acted as both spiritual and scientific centers, teaching observation and precision. Chalukyas show that art, religion, and science were deeply intertwined, demonstrating how rulers used knowledge to guide both culture and governance. Chapter 46. The Eastern Ganga dynasty built the Konark Sun Temple, aligning architecture with solar movements. Kings and artisans mastered stonework, hydraulics, and astronomy. Temples doubled as calendars, marking seasons and festivals. Even today, scientists marvel at their precision. Eastern Ganga shows that faith, art, and scientific observation could coexist, creating monuments that taught as well as inspired. Chapter 47. The Chera dynasty in Kerala controlled ports thriving on spices and pearls. Sailors navigated oceans using early maps, monsoon knowledge, and astronomy. Kings supported medicine, botany, and literature, turning cities into hubs of learning. Chera demonstrates that ancient kingdoms were not isolated. They actively engaged with the world, blending science, trade, and culture seamlessly. Chapter 48. The Kamarupa kingdom in Assam built cities along rivers, managing floods with advanced techniques. Kings encouraged medicine, astrology, and arts, turning capitals into centers of learning. Temples and forts reflected careful study of terrain and seasonal changes. Kamarupa teaches that environmental challenges often drove scientific innovation, blending survival with culture in creative ways. Chapter 49. The Marwar kingdom in Rajasthan thrived despite desert conditions. Kings built forts, stepwells, and rainwater systems to sustain cities. Architecture and engineering reflected precise understanding of geography, climate, and strategy. Marwar demonstrates how necessity spurred innovation, turning harsh landscapes into thriving centers of culture and science, where survival required both brains and courage. Chapter 50. The Ahom dynasty of Assam excelled in river warfare and flood management. Kings supported agriculture, medicine, and the arts. Manuscripts reveal knowledge of herbs, hydrology, and ecology. Ahom proves that even isolated kingdoms could innovate over centuries, blending observation, experimentation, and culture to survive and flourish, leaving a scientific legacy often overlooked by history. Chapter 51. The Chola dynasty dominated southern India with vast trade networks reaching Southeast Asia. Kings built temples like Brihadiswarar, combining art, astronomy, and engineering. Scholars predicted eclipses and tides, showing practical science at work. Chola influence extended through culture, navigation, and architecture, proving that kingdoms thrived on knowledge as much as conquest, leaving legacies that sailed across oceans. Chapter 52. The Rashtrakutas ruled the Deccan Plateau, creating rock-cut marvels like Ellora caves. Temples aligned with stars, reflecting advanced astronomy. Kings supported literature, philosophy, and mathematics, blending learning with governance. Rashtrakutas show that art and science were inseparable, shaping both daily life and spiritual pursuits. Their contributions remain studied today, inspiring architects, historians, and scientists alike. Chapter 53. The Bundelkhand kingdom built forts and palaces adapted to its rivers and terrain. Kings engineered canals and reservoirs for agriculture. Scholars studied plants, seasons, and weather patterns to aid survival. Bundelkhand's hidden histories reveal that innovation often came from necessity, where scientific observation and engineering created thriving settlements even in challenging environments. Chapter 54. The Chalukyas of Kalyani promoted literature, temples, and astronomy. Observatories tracked celestial events guiding agriculture and festivals. Architecture reflected precise geometry, blending art and science. Chalukya kings showed that knowledge was essential for governance, where mathematics and observation informed cultural and civic life, leaving a legacy still admired in Karnataka and beyond. Chapter 55. The Satavahanas governed central and southern India, building stepwells and irrigation systems for thriving cities. Coins and inscriptions show sophisticated administration and trade. Kings valued observation and experimentation, showing early forms of science integrated into daily governance. Satavahanas demonstrate that practical knowledge was crucial for economic and social stability, not just ceremonial display. Chapter 56. Malwa in central India thrived with forts, trade, and water management systems. Kings promoted literature, astronomy, and engineering, creating cities that endured conflict. Stepwells and palaces combined beauty with practicality. Malwa's innovations reveal that ancient kingdoms often merged science with art, leaving lessons for urban planners, engineers, and historians studying long-forgotten civilizations. Chapter 57. The Ahom dynasty resisted invasions with clever river strategies and fortified settlements. Kings invested in medicine, agriculture, and learning, using observation to manage floods and seasons. Manuscripts reveal extensive knowledge of herbs and ecology. Ahom's success illustrates that even isolated kingdoms could innovate, blending tradition with practical science to sustain life for centuries in Assam. Chapter 58. The Kalinga kingdom, known for resilience and trade, excelled in urban planning. Streets, forts, and markets were designed efficiently, while kings supported medicine and astronomy. Kalinga demonstrates that strategic thinking and scientific observation went hand in hand, producing cities that were cultural, commercial, and intellectual centers long before modern planning existed. Chapter 59. The Chamba kingdom in the Himalayas adapted to high-altitude life with innovative architecture and agriculture. Temples and forts reflected careful study of terrain and climate. Kings encouraged arts, astronomy, and medicine, turning isolation into creativity. Chamba reminds us that even small, remote kingdoms contributed significantly to India's scientific and cultural heritage, leaving legacies visible today. Chapter 60. Vijayanagar's lesser-known towns had reservoirs, canals, and observatories ensuring agricultural prosperity. Kings monitored monsoons and rivers for effective planning. Temples doubled as learning centers, blending faith with science. Vijayanagar demonstrates how empires integrated observation, engineering, and culture, showing that governance and scientific curiosity often walked hand in hand in forgotten Indian kingdoms. Chapter 61. The Western Ganga dynasty in Karnataka built temples, forts, and irrigation systems with precise geometry. Scholars studied astronomy and medicine, turning small towns into centers of learning. Kings combined art and science to improve agriculture and civic life. Even today, the Ganga legacy shows that forgotten kingdoms had sophisticated understanding of engineering, planning, and culture. Chapter 62. The Pandya kingdom thrived on maritime trade, exporting pearls and spices to Rome and Southeast Asia. Ports were bustling centers of commerce and learning, where sailors used astronomy to navigate. Kings supported medicine, literature, and the arts. Pandya shows that knowledge traveled with trade, shaping cities as hubs of culture, science, and international connections centuries ago. Chapter 63. The Kakatiya dynasty in Telangana built Warangal with fortified walls, tanks, and canals, demonstrating advanced engineering. Temples and palaces reflected precise geometry, blending mathematics with aesthetics. Kings encouraged scholars to study astronomy and literature. Kakatiya proves that rulers valued knowledge as much as conquest, leaving stone and waterworks as evidence of practical science integrated into society. Chapter 64. The Solanki dynasty of Gujarat left stepwells, temples, and public works showing engineering prowess. Kings promoted astronomy and astrology for agriculture and festivals. Cities reflected geometric planning, combining art, science, and daily life. Solanki ruins reveal that knowledge guided both rulers and citizens, shaping administration, architecture, and culture in ways that still fascinate historians today. Chapter 65. The Chalukyas of Badami carved rock-cut temples aligned with celestial events. Kings supported mathematics, medicine, and philosophy. Temples acted as learning centers, teaching precision and observation alongside spiritual practices. Chalukyas show that art and science were intertwined, guiding civic and religious life, while leaving lasting monuments studied for centuries by architects and scholars alike. Chapter 66. The Eastern Ganga dynasty built the Konark Sun Temple, perfectly aligned with solar movements. Artisans mastered stonework, hydraulics, and astronomy. Temples doubled as calendars marking seasons and festivals. Eastern Ganga shows that faith, art, and science coexisted, creating monuments that educated as much as they inspired, leaving behind knowledge preserved in stone and shadow. Chapter 67. The Chera dynasty in Kerala controlled ports rich with spices and pearls. Sailors navigated oceans using monsoon winds, early maps, and astronomy. Kings encouraged medicine, literature, and botany, turning cities into learning hubs. Chera proves that trade, science, and culture were interwoven, and knowledge traveled faster than ships, leaving a lasting impact on maritime history. Chapter 68. The Kamarupa kingdom in Assam managed rivers and floods with advanced engineering. Kings encouraged arts, medicine, and astrology, making capitals vibrant centers of learning. Temples and forts reflected careful study of terrain and seasonal changes. Kamarupa shows how environmental challenges drove scientific innovation, blending survival and culture in ways that shaped entire communities. Chapter 69. The Marwar Kingdom in Rajasthan survived harsh desert conditions through forts, stepwells, and rainwater systems. Architecture reflected deep understanding of geography, climate, and strategy. Kings promoted arts and astronomy alongside engineering. Marwar illustrates how necessity spurred innovation, turning harsh landscapes into thriving centers of culture, science, and resilience, where survival was both creative and scientific. Chapter 70. The Ahom dynasty excelled in river warfare and flood management. Kings invested in agriculture, medicine, and arts. Manuscripts reveal knowledge of herbs, hydrology, and ecology. Ahom demonstrates that even isolated kingdoms innovated over centuries, blending observation, experimentation, and culture. Their achievements ensured survival. Chapter 71. The Chola dynasty dominated southern India with vast naval and trade networks. Temples like Brihadiswarar combined architecture, astronomy, and engineering. Scholars predicted eclipses and tides, applying practical science to daily life. Chola influence extended to Southeast Asia, showing that kingdoms thrived on knowledge, culture, and navigation, leaving a legacy that sailed far beyond India's shores. Chapter 72. The Rashtrakutas ruled the Deccan Plateau, carving rock-cut temples like Ellora aligned with celestial patterns. Kings promoted mathematics, medicine, and literature. Art and science blended seamlessly, guiding both spiritual and civic life. Rashtrakutas left a legacy of monuments studied centuries later, proving that knowledge was central to governance and cultural expression in ancient India. Chapter 73. Bundelkhand, in central India, built forts and palaces suited to rivers and terrain. Canals and reservoirs supported agriculture, while scholars studied local flora, seasons, and weather patterns. Innovation often came from necessity, and Bundelkhand's kingdoms thrived through practical science. These hidden histories reveal that even small kingdoms developed knowledge systems critical for survival and prosperity. Chapter 74. The Chalukyas of Kalyani built temples, observatories, and promoted literature. Celestial events guided agriculture and festivals. Architecture reflected precise geometry and aesthetics. Chalukya rulers demonstrated that science was essential to governance and culture. Temples served as classrooms for mathematics and astronomy, leaving a legacy where observation and art became inseparable in everyday life and civic planning. Chapter 75. The Satavahanas governed central and southern India, building stepwells, canals, and irrigation systems. Coins and inscriptions reveal sophisticated administration and trade. Kings valued observation and experimentation, integrating early forms of science into governance. Satavahanas show that knowledge was crucial for economic stability, agriculture, and societal growth, not merely ceremonial prestige or military power. Chapter 76. Malwa thrived with forts, trade centers, and water reservoirs. Kings encouraged literature, astronomy, and engineering. Stepwells and palaces combined practicality with artistry. Malwa's innovations demonstrate that science and art were intertwined, providing lessons in urban planning, architecture, and sustainable water management. Forgotten kingdoms like Malwa often held knowledge still relevant to modern studies. Chapter 77. The Ahom dynasty resisted invasions using river strategies and fortified settlements. Kings promoted agriculture, medicine, and the arts. Manuscripts reveal deep understanding of herbs, ecology, and hydrology. Ahom's achievements show that even remote kingdoms could innovate, blending tradition with practical science, ensuring survival and cultural prosperity over centuries in Assam's challenging environment. Chapter 78. The Kalinga Kingdom, renowned for ports and resistance, excelled in urban planning. Streets, forts, and markets were efficiently designed. Kings supported medicine, astrology, and education. Kalinga illustrates how strategic thinking and observation were central to urban development, creating cities that were cultural, commercial, and intellectual hubs long before modern planning principles existed. Chapter 79. Chamba in the Himalayas adapted architecture and agriculture to high-altitude life. Temples and forts reflected detailed study of terrain and climate. Kings encouraged arts, astronomy, and medicine, turning isolation into creativity. Chamba reminds us that even small kingdoms significantly contributed to India's scientific and cultural heritage, leaving legacies visible through structures, manuscripts, and practices. Chapter 80. Vijayanagar's lesser-known towns had canals, reservoirs, and observatories supporting agriculture and urban life. Kings monitored monsoons and river flows carefully. Temples served as learning centers, blending faith with science. Vijayanagar demonstrates how empires combined observation, engineering, and culture, showing that governance and scientific curiosity often walked hand in hand, leaving lessons still admired centuries later. Chapter 81. The Western Ganga dynasty in Karnataka built temples, forts, and irrigation systems with exact geometry. Scholars studied astronomy, medicine, and mathematics, turning towns into learning hubs. Kings blended art and science for civic and agricultural development. The Ganga legacy proves that even smaller kingdoms held sophisticated knowledge, leaving structures and innovations that continue to inspire historians and engineers today. Chapter 82. The Pandya kingdom thrived on maritime trade, exporting pearls, spices, and ideas to distant lands. Ports became centers of learning where sailors used astronomy for navigation. Kings patronized medicine, literature, and the arts. Pandya illustrates that commerce and knowledge traveled together, creating hubs of culture, science, and international influence centuries before modern globalization. Chapter 83. The Kakatiya dynasty in Telangana built Warangal with fortified walls, tanks, and canals, demonstrating engineering expertise. Temples and palaces followed precise geometric design, blending aesthetics with mathematics. Scholars studied astronomy, literature, and governance. Kakatiya's achievements reveal that rulers valued knowledge as much as conquest, leaving stone and waterworks as enduring evidence of practical science in everyday life. Chapter 84. The Solanki dynasty of Gujarat constructed stepwells, temples, and public works showcasing engineering skill. Kings promoted astronomy and astrology to plan agriculture and rituals. Cities reflected geometric precision, combining art, science, and social life. Solanki ruins remind us that knowledge guided both rulers and citizens, shaping governance, urban planning, and cultural life in ways still admired today. Chapter 85. The Chalukyas of Badami carved rock-cut temples aligned with celestial movements. Kings supported studies in mathematics, medicine, and philosophy. Temples acted as learning centers, teaching observation and precision alongside religious practices. Chalukyas demonstrate how art and science were intertwined, guiding civic, spiritual, and cultural life while leaving enduring monuments still studied today. Chapter 86. The Eastern Ganga dynasty built the Konark Sun Temple, perfectly aligned with solar movements. Artisans mastered stonework, hydraulics, and astronomy. Temples doubled as calendars for festivals and seasons. Eastern Ganga shows that faith, art, and science coexisted, creating monuments that educated and inspired, leaving behind knowledge preserved in stone and shadow for future generations. Chapter 87. The Chera dynasty in Kerala controlled thriving ports exporting spices and pearls. Sailors navigated oceans using early maps, monsoon knowledge, and astronomy. Kings promoted medicine, botany, and literature, turning cities into learning hubs. Chera proves that trade, science, and culture were deeply interwoven, allowing knowledge to travel faster than ships and shaping maritime history quietly yet powerfully. Chapter 88. The Kamarupa kingdom in Assam mastered river and flood management with advanced engineering. Kings encouraged arts, medicine, and astrology, making capitals vibrant learning centers. Temples and forts reflected careful study of terrain and seasonal changes. Kamarupa shows how environmental challenges drove innovation, blending survival and culture in ways that shaped entire communities for generations. Chapter 89. The Marwar kingdom in Rajasthan survived desert conditions with forts, stepwells, and rainwater systems. Architecture reflected knowledge of geography, climate, and defense strategy. Kings encouraged arts, literature, and astronomy alongside engineering. Marwar illustrates how necessity sparked creativity, turning harsh landscapes into thriving cultural and scientific centers where survival depended on intelligence and innovation. Chapter 90. The Ahom dynasty excelled in river warfare, flood management, and agriculture. Kings promoted medicine, arts, and scholarly study. Manuscripts reveal extensive knowledge of herbs, ecology, and hydrology. Ahom demonstrates that even isolated kingdoms innovated over centuries, blending observation, experimentation, and culture to survive and flourish, leaving a scientific legacy still admired in Assam today. Chapter 91. The Chola dynasty dominated southern India with naval strength and far-reaching trade. Temples like Brihadiswarar combined architecture, astronomy, and engineering. Scholars predicted eclipses and tides, applying practical science. Chola influence spread to Southeast Asia, showing that kingdoms thrived on knowledge, culture, and navigation, leaving legacies that traveled across oceans and centuries. Chapter 92. The Rashtrakutas ruled the Deccan, carving rock-cut temples like Ellora aligned with stars. Kings promoted mathematics, medicine, and philosophy. Art and science coexisted, guiding both spiritual and civic life. Rashtrakutas left monuments studied for centuries, proving knowledge was central to governance and culture, creating legacies still inspiring historians, architects, and engineers today. Chapter 93. Bundelkhand's forts and palaces were adapted to rivers and terrain. Canals and reservoirs sustained agriculture, while scholars studied seasons, flora, and weather. Innovation emerged from necessity, showing that small kingdoms developed sophisticated knowledge systems. Bundelkand's hidden histories reveal that practical science was key for survival, administration, and prosperity, even in seemingly remote regions. Chapter 94. The Chalukyas of Kalyani built temples, observatories, and promoted literature. Celestial events guided agriculture and festivals. Architecture reflected precise geometry and aesthetics. Chalukya rulers demonstrated that science was essential for governance and culture. Temples acted as classrooms for mathematics and astronomy, blending observation with art and leaving enduring legacies for future generations. Chapter 95. The Satavahanas governed central and southern India, building stepwells, canals, and irrigation systems. Coins and inscriptions reveal sophisticated administration and trade. Kings valued observation and experimentation, integrating early forms of science into governance. Satavahanas show that practical knowledge was crucial for economic stability, agriculture, and societal growth, not merely ceremonial or military achievements. Chapter 96. Malwa thrived with forts, trade, and water reservoirs. Kings promoted literature, astronomy, and engineering, blending practicality with beauty in palaces and stepwells. Malwa's innovations reveal that science and art were intertwined, providing lessons in urban planning and sustainable water management. Forgotten kingdoms often held knowledge still relevant to modern studies and infrastructure. Chapter 97. The Ahom dynasty resisted invasions through river strategies and fortifications. Kings promoted agriculture, medicine, and arts. Manuscripts reveal extensive knowledge of herbs, hydrology, and ecology. Ahom shows that even remote kingdoms innovated over centuries, blending observation, experimentation, and culture, ensuring survival and prosperity in Assam's challenging landscapes, leaving a legacy of practical science. Chapter 98. The Kalinga kingdom excelled in urban planning, with efficiently designed streets, forts, and markets. Kings promoted medicine, astrology, and education. Kalinga illustrates how strategic thinking and observation were central to city development, creating cultural, commercial, and intellectual hubs long before modern urban planning emerged, leaving a model of knowledge-driven governance. Chapter 99. Chambo in the Himalayas adapted architecture and agriculture to high-altitude life. Temples and forts reflected careful study of terrain and climate. Kings encouraged arts, astronomy, and medicine, turning isolation into innovation. Chambo reminds us that even small kingdoms contributed to India's scientific and cultural heritage, leaving legacies visible in structures, manuscripts, and traditional practices. Chapter 100. Vijayanagar's towns featured canals, reservoirs, and observatories supporting agriculture and urban life. Kings monitored monsoons and river flows carefully. Temples acted as learning centers, blending faith with science. Vijayanagar demonstrates how empires integrated observation, engineering, and culture, showing that governance and scientific curiosity walked hand in hand, leaving lessons admired and studied even centuries later. These 100 forgotten kingdoms remind us that India's history is richer than we imagine. From temples aligned with stars to ingenious water systems, knowledge and creativity thrived across the land. If you enjoyed this journey through time, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that bring the past to life.